I have a question that kind of goes back to the issues in Cincinnati. How can Cincinnati continue this ongoing resolve that we've talked about? You know, we've made this progress since '01, but how can we continue to make this ongoing resolve in the city of Cincinnati?
He's here, and, you know, keep in contact with us.
Anyone can answer it.
I mean, I think the answer is to commit to never forget. It's to be aware and understanding of the history so that we don't get there again. For people who, I mean, I'm 51 years old, and you know, maybe when I'm 60, if I start to sense the tensions building again and start to see the community institutions beginning to separate and people backing against the walls, it's my responsibility to see, to sense that, see that, and try to stop that from happening. And that may or may not happen. If enough of us remember, it won't separate. And I mean, I'm naive to think that. I mean, things always ebb and flow. It's history. It's what always happens. But you know, I think that's the answer for us to acknowledge that 2001 was a point of departure, and we as a community committed never to go back behind where we were in 2000. Always to move forward and to make incremental steps. So, but it takes ongoing commitment, ongoing work. As I said before, it's like any relationship. It requires work. It requires commitment and dedication to make it work. And it's the same for a city as it is for two people.
Yeah.
And I think there's more of a national perspective too for Damion and other people doing research. They're going to keep in contact with each other. He wants to know in his heart and soul how you're doing too. And so, you know, I do this. I'll go to cities where I'm kind of interested in what's going on. And I'll start talking to people on the street. And I will start doing more of that interaction just to see, you know, what they're thinking. And I've done this with homeless. Homeless are very different from city to city, how they're treated and their anger level, etc. So you can start working on different elements to just, you know, informally, interpersonally try to see how things are going for the population. And that's a good way of getting a pulse of what's
Do you have anything? Well, as a student interested in public relations, what advice would you give to a graduate student or an undergraduate student interested in pursuing a career in public relations? Do you have any advice that you would give to any of the students?
Well, lots of resumes. Make personal contact as follow-up to those resumes.
Yeah.
And throughout your undergraduate career, be involved in an awful lot of student activities, or internships or work experiences that expose you to different components of public relations. And I would also say, which is critical in our business, don't underestimate the importance of the art of writing. People think communications is verbal and nonverbal. At the core of having, I believe, our business model, work we do on behalf of our clients, at the core of that is still being able to write a very tight sentence, still be able to put together a really good paragraph, and figuring out how to take a story and put it into words that are easily understood. That if people in our company can't do that, they won't succeed. So anybody that thinks it's really okay just to text and instead of writing out the IOU, just use the letter U, and how are you doing, and they just put in the letter R, and they don't capitalize, and they don't, they will not succeed in this business. I don't believe they'll succeed in lots of things in life, but they won't succeed in this business.
Yeah.
So it comes from a communications major who's now running a public relations firm.
Yeah.
I have I have a daughter who's a 7th grade language arts teacher as well, so it's kind of fundamental from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
I would just say put it as bold. My students, and my ones did too, I start writing in their very first PR course intensely. In fact, I have the book here because I was part of the gift session that basically has every kind of PR format that you can find. And so, yeah, my first year course students have to know how to do that. Writing is so critical that I even put it the fact it's the same level being able to speak English. If you can't do the writing and you can't speak English, forget about being a PR at all. Because that, I assume, has to be in place. But I'm also seeing, as I talk to a lot of different people, that a foreign language is very critical right now because of the global and the diversity of our cultures now, and they're requiring that for some of the agencies. And then, to be more intense than that, I require 7 internships minimum before they graduate. I don't know how many you require. And so I say, okay, you can start out with the fun ones that are not too competitive, but by the time you get to your 4th or 5th or 6th, you better start being nationally competitive, you know, competing when there's 1,500 entries and you're the one that gets it. That's what I want you to do by the time you're juniors and seniors. So I'm also working on having a program that extends to global, meaning that I just got the green light to start taking students everywhere in the world for 5 weeks of intense immersion within a culture to start making contacts with those corporate PR entities and nonprofits and agencies, because I think if they don't do that, they cannot function in today's world. And so we're really pushing the ante up. But I do think that sustainability, the new concept, the new model is not just beyond business, sustainability. You assume business. You assume the English language. You assume that you can write. You're on a higher quality, ethical level decision making that looks at how you're being responsible for society and moving all of culture along. I mean, just look at the environmental issues we have today. How many? 11,000 planes are grounded and nobody can fly anywhere because of one dang volcano that's gone on 190 years. So what is happening? Why is all this happening? We need PR people who have a background, deep commitment to that issue. So they have the content, they come with environmental content, can write on a dime, can speak on a dime, can speak that language of Icelanders, whatever it is, and be able to go there and figure out what's going on. That's the level of the complexity of the problems we have to solve today, and they have to be able to work in teams. They have to be able to work in teams. So, good luck.
I would,
Thank you.
Lastly, I would champion the critical thinking ability that I think research brings to the table. Oftentimes, public relations is thought of as the event planning, the fluff, the make it look pretty, put it in a bow. But you need to be able to. I've seen graduate students land jobs because of the research they were able to do. When you look at strategic communications, and that's what public relations is strategic communication. So one example that you can look at is, let's assume there's a pastor. He has a church membership of 1,000, but only 50 people are coming to church regularly and tithing regularly. And so he asked someone, okay, let's solve this problem. You know, we need at least 50% membership to contribute, 10 so that the church can stay viable. And someone says, oh, let's put on an event. Let's do a cookout, get people here, so that we can get the membership up. Or let's do some sort of fun activity. That's the typical thinking of PR. Ooh, if we put on an event, they'll come. You know, but what if the problem is the pastor himself? You know, what if he's sleeping with the women in the church? What if he's misappropriating funds? What if his church time is not meeting the needs of his population? Everybody's working a night shift. And so to be able to attack that sort of problem critically is where the research comes in. But I think critical thinking is key. In addition to all that's been said, students have to be able to think for themselves and provide creative, thoughtful, insightful solutions to problems, because no one is looking for someone who just looks good on paper but can't contribute in meaningful ways to the organization.